Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next hour, curtains come down on campaigning for the 7th and final phase of the Great Indian Elections, polling to be held on 57 parliamentary seats on the 1st of June. Winds of change gather force during counting of votes in South Africa. Trends indicate the African National Congress is set to lose majority for the first time since apartheid ended 30 years ago. Hong Kong High Court convicts 14 pro-democracy activists, marking the toughest use yet of a China-imposed national security law in the global financial hub. And Indian space startup Agni-ban successfully launches a rocket powered by the world's first 3D printed single-piece engine from its own launch pad. First up, let's get to the latest on the world's largest democratic election unfolding in India. The campaigning for the 7th and final phase of India's parliamentary elections 2024 ended on Thursday, with leaders of top political parties intensifying their efforts with last-minute rallies and public meetings. Voting will be held on the 1st of June in 57 parliamentary seats across 7 states and 1 union territory of Chandigarh. The 4th of June is when we'll all find out about the people's verdict.
Curtains came down on the high-octane campaign for India's parliamentary elections on Thursday. The end of election campaign marks the beginning of the silence period. On the last day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi campaigned in Hoshiarpur in the northern state of Punjab. Prime Minister Narendra Modi compared the works of his government with the ideology of Guru Ravidas and attacked the Indie bloc. He accused Congress for imposing emergency in late 70s. He also slammed Congress for 1984 riots against Sikhs. All 13 seats of Punjab are voting in the last phase of polling on June 1st. This time, BJP is contesting polls without its long-standing ally Shiromani Akali Dal. In Uttar Pradesh, senior BJP leader and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh campaigned in Kushinagar, Robertsganj and Chandauli constituencies. The senior BJP leader highlighted India became the 5th largest economy in the world under PM Modi's leadership. BJP National President JP Nadda was in Anandpur Sahib parliamentary constituency in Punjab. Nadda also held rallies in Amritsar, Faridkot and Roopnagar in favour of party candidates. On their parts, top leaders of opposition parties also made last-ditch attempts to woo voters in their favour. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi campaigned in Balasore, Odisha and Anandpur Sahib, Punjab, while his sister and Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra campaigned in Solan, Himachal Pradesh. In East West Bengal, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee held a Padyatra in Jadavpur, Kolkata. 57 parliamentary constituencies spread over 8 states will go to the polls in the last phase. The fate of 904 candidates will be decided in this phase of election. The counting of votes will take place on June 4th. Dheeraj Das, DD India.
Let's get you an update now about the final day of campaigning and the contest ahead on the 1st of June. We're joined by 2 of my colleagues who've been out in the field covering the election hurly-burly. Amritpal Singh is with us from Anandpur Sahib in Punjab, and Akshay Dongre joins us from Kulu, which is part of the Mandi seat in Himachal Pradesh. Good evening to you both. First to you, Amrit. Tell us about how did the final day of campaigning in Punjab, all 13 parliamentary seats in the state are at stake there on Saturday. How did it go?
Well, campaigning reached its zenith today before it came to a close this evening. Prime Minister was here in the state. He addressed a rally in Hoshiarpur where he made an emotional pitch saying this is my last campaign, this is my last election rally for before the campaigning closes. He invoked Guru Ravidas, given that Hoshiarpur is a reserved seat and also given that the neighbouring Jalandhar is a reserved seat. So there was a clear there was an effort to woo the Dalit voter in Punjab by invoking Ravidas, saying that he was born in Varanasi from where he is, and he said that he wishes to build the Adampur airport and name it after Guru Ravidas. Now clearly appealing to the Dalit voter. Remember, Gautam, Punjab has the highest number of Dalits in all over the country. 32% of Dalits, according to the last census. That number may be higher. So appealing to that, then of course invoking the border, it being a border state, invoking the sentiment about the army men, saying that the Congress questioned the surgical strikes, but never did anything for the army, attacking the Indi bloc, including the AAP, saying that they have not delivered in the state despite being in power for 2.5 years. So and there were other candidates. Arvind Kejriwal was campaigning in Punjab today. Rahul Gandhi was in Punjab yesterday. So clearly national leaders and of course the local candidates and the local leaders, including party chiefs like the Shromani Akali Dal chief Sukhbir Singh Badal was campaigning all across the state. So both regional and national leaders campaigned hard today before the silent period set in.
And Akshay, Mandi has already seen one of the fiercest contests in the country, with the legacy of Raja Veerbhadra Singh at stake through his son Vikramaditya and National Film Award winning actor Kangana Ranaut. Now, how did it go today for Mandi and for Himachal Pradesh?
Well, absolutely. It is the legacy of Raja Veerbhadra Singh, who has served as the Chief Minister of State for 21 years, a 6-term Chief Minister, in fact 5-term Member of Parliament as well from the state, and had served as, has held several portfolios in the UPA-led central government when they were in power earlier. So Raja Veerbhadra Singh is perhaps one of the tallest leaders in the state of Himachal Pradesh and is in fact the longest-serving Chief Minister. His son Vikramaditya is contesting this time around from Mandi constituencies. In fact, Raja Veerbhadra Singh's wife, Pratibha Singh, is the Member of Parliament from here right now after the death of Ramswarup Sharma. She in fact won the by-elections that took place in 2021. So yes, absolutely we can say that it is the legacy of Raja Veerbhadra Singh that is at stake here for his son Vikramaditya, and how he plans to pitch his father's legacy in front of Kangana Ranaut, who is a Bollywood superstar. She's a renowned face across the country and in fact outside the country as well. And however, the Congress is trying to focus on one point, that Kangana Ranaut is not a politician. She's not a leader. She's an outsider. In fact, that is what the Congress party has been accusing Kangana Ranaut of, whereas Kangana Ranaut has been attacking and in fact other Congress leadership has also been attacking the BJP Member of Parliament of not being rather there for the people of the state. However, when we talk about the high-pitched battle that took place, in fact the campaigning that took place in the state, we saw from Prime Minister to Foreign Affairs Minister to Union Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari to Union Home Minister, all of them here. JP Nadda was here, and in fact from the Congress side their top leadership was here as well. But if we specifically talk about today, then Yogi Adityanath, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, who is quite a popular leader across the country as well, he was here campaigning for Kangana Ranaut. He first was in Mandi where he campaigned for Kangana Ranaut. Then he went to Hamirpur, from where Anurag Thakur, the Union Information Broadcast Minister, is contesting as well. However, if from the Congress side, it was the Priyanka Gandhi Vadra who led the campaign, in fact holding several road shows in the Solan area of Himachal Pradesh. So attacks and counterattacks kept on taking place in entire day before the curtains came down on the election campaigns. But just one thing I wanted to add, Gautam, is that what we saw something very different in the Congress's strategy was attacking the BJP-led central government for not being there for the people of Himachal Pradesh, especially last year when there was a devastation in the constituency of Mandi, where we saw unprecedented amount of rains sweeping away roads and dams, etc., where the Congress attacked the central leadership of not being there, not supporting the people of Himachal Pradesh enough, whereas the BJP attacked the Congress party of taking the funds and using it for their personal things instead of letting it reach to the people who need it the most. So climate also was talked about, along with other things that were point of talking for the leaders, and before the campaigns closed, all out effort was made by all the leaders in the campaign.
Right. Now, Amrit, Punjab is a sensitive state with Pakistan on the other side of the border. Radical forces have also been at play there at different levels of intensity in different times. And the polling in Punjab is also taking place on the day Operation Blue Star began in 1984. Now, is all that which extends to Ghus Ke Manenge a factor in these elections in Punjab?
It is a factor on a few seats. The days of separatism, the dark days of militancy, terrorism, whatever adjective you want to use for it, are over. You may see, the Khalistan sentiment in Canada, in the UK, in Australia, etc. But on ground in Punjab, I come from Punjab, that doesn't find much traction. People like Amritpal, who's contesting from Khadur Sahib, don't find much, traction when it comes to electoral
and
politics.
Amritpal is in jail at the moment.
And
not in Punjab.
Irrelevant. Sorry?
Amritpal is in jail and not in Punjab at the moment. He's campaigning from behind bars.
That's right. But he's contesting from Khadur. He's a candidate from Khadur Sahib. He's in Dibrugarh. He's lodged in Dibrugarh jail under the National Security Act in Assam's Dibrugarh jail. That's right. So even Simranjit Maan won in the bypoll in 2023 post the Sidhu Moosewala killing. Now, there were various factors for that after Bhagwant Mann resigned from that seat and became the Chief Minister of Punjab post the 2022 election. Now, he's fielded candidates on all seats. He's supporting Amritpal also, and I would say there is a pocket, there is a small, constituency which does have these people have a following in that constituency. Is that enough to win elections? I don't know, but that's enough to upset the apple cart for the conventional parties. For example, Lakha Sidhana, a Simranjit Maan candidate, Simranjit Maan party is called Shiromani Akali Dal Amritsar, is causing considerable damage to Harsimrat Kaur Badal in Bathinda, because the Akali vote is essentially the Panthik vote. Now, these are the hardliners are vying on that hardcore or the more right wing of that Panthik vote. So they can upset the apple cart when it is a multi-cornered contest. So that is the role they play. Whether they'll win, we'll have to see. For Amritpal, for example, there is a sympathy factor in Khadur Sahib that he's put in jail. He's a young boy. He did not, he did not deserve to be charged under the NSA, etc. Now, there can be differing views on that. Now, that has led to polarization, counter-polarization of the Hindu vote, urban Hindu vote, in the favor of the BJP, which is actually facing the farmers higher in Punjab. So, that's what makes this election very unpredictable. That's what makes this election very intriguing. But yes, on a few seats, there is this factor of, especially on Sangrur, where Simranjit Maan himself is contesting, and also in Khadur Sahib. But I'm not too sure if they'll be able to get past that threshold to win the election, but they can surely upset the apple cart. So from a security point of view, from a national security point of view, I think those days are way behind us.
Glad to hear that. And very quickly to you, Akshay, in terms of how these polls are significant for the nation and for the state of Himachal, only 4 seats in Parliament, but there's something else at play here this time around, isn't it, as well?
Well, absolutely. In fact, Gautam, it's not just the 4 parliamentary constituencies, it is the future of the state government here at stake as well. Because to explain to our viewers, Himachal has 68 seats in the Legislative Assembly. 34 are being held by the Congress party. The BJP right now is 6 short of the 34 mark, if it also gets support of the 3 independent that are in the opposition as well. So BJP is at 25 plus 3 that are independent candidates, independent MLAs rather, and the 6 seats that are going for by-elections now. All of these 6 MLAs, all of these 6 seats rather, were held by the Congress MLAs who voted against the Congress party in favor of the Bharatiya Janata Party in the Rajya Sabha elections, in the upper house elections, which led the Congress party to disqualify them, expel them from the party, and that is the reason why the by-elections are happening.
All right.
And all of these 6 MLAs have in fact switched over to the BJP contestant from BJP's ticket. So if all 6
so
seats
this
go to
could
the BJP,
change the
can,
complexion of the state
definitely
government
put a question
if
mark on
the elections go a certain way. Yes, Akshay, following that very closely with you on counting day 2. Thanks a lot for joining us for the time being, both Akshay as well as Amritpal Singh. And still to come on DD India News are all you need to know about the rocket Agni-ban after the break, which is an Indian triumph on a global scale. Ukraine sea drones hit Russian motorboats off occupied Crimea. And China hosts the 10th ministerial meeting of the China-Arab States Cooperation Forum in Beijing.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Agni-ban Cosmos, India's private space startup, test-fired its rocket named Agni-ban Sorted, which is short for Suborbital Tech Demonstrator, on Thursday. The test flight successfully demonstrated in-house and homegrown technologies such as a single-piece 3D printed rocket engine and much else, which holds a huge amount of meaning for India's space endeavours. More in this report.
Failure is the stepping stone of success. The space startup Agni-ban Cosmos has proven this adage true, as the Chennai-based startup successfully test-fired its rocket Agni-ban on its 5th attempt on Thursday.
Plus 5 seconds. Liftoff confirmed.
The suborbital tech demonstrator rocket, which was powered by an engine that even Indian Space Research Organization is still working to master. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Chennai startup Agni-ban on success of Agni-ban rocket. Prime Minister Modi wrote on X, and I quote, "The successful launch of Agni-ban rocket, powered by world's first single-piece 3D printed semi-cryogenic engine, is a momentous occasion for India's space sector and a testament to the remarkable ingenuity of our Yuva Shakti. My best wishes to the team for their future endeavours." Meanwhile, ISRO chairman S. Somnath congratulated the team in a post saying it's a major milestone as the first ever controlled flight of a semi-cryogenic liquid engine realized through additive manufacturing. Agni-ban, which was lifted off from Sriharikota, is a 2-stage launch vehicle that can carry up to 300 kg of payload to orbits nearly 700 kilometers in altitude. The Agni-ban rocket weighs 575 kg and is 6.2 meter long. The rocket houses a semi-cryogenic engine that functions on commercially available aviation turbine fuel like kerosene and medical-grade liquid oxygen, which makes fuel procurement convenient and low cost. Agni-ban demonstrated the first semi-cryogenic and 3D printed engine developed by the Indian private sector. 3D printing technology efficiently reduces the quality testing time for such engines. Once Agni-ban rockets become fully operational, Agnikul Cosmos is expected to launch 30 to 300 kg satellites into space on demand. Agnikul's success story is not just about reaching space, it's about pushing the boundaries of technology and innovation, reinforcing the idea that with determination and cutting-edge technology, the sky is not the limit, it's just the beginning. Aman Kumar Himangshu's report for DD India.
Plus 5 seconds. Liftoff confirmed.
Let's get you more on this. Dr. Pawan Goenka, chairperson in Space, which is Indian government's single window agency for all space activities of the private sector, is joining us. Welcome to DD India, Dr. Goenka. First of all, many congratulations to you. Apart from those at Agnikul Cosmos, we're all celebrating the success in India. But tell us, why is this a landmark moment in India's tryst with space and even for the world?
Thank you very much. But the real heroes today are the team Agni-ban. And they have really created history and made the whole country wake up early in the morning and take note of what they have done. Now, why it's very significant is already sort of coming out from the tweet of Honorable Prime Minister, that it sort of demonstrates that the private sector in India is not just taking the tried and tested and taking it forward, but they're creating new technology. New technology in Agni-ban, as we have seen already, is a single-piece 3D printed semi-cryogenic engine that is first time ever in the world, not just in India, and many other technologies that have come in. So that's the significant part. The second thing is the youth in India is taking notice of opportunities and excitement of the space sector and bringing in the youth power, youth energy, youth innovative mind into the space sector. And that's what makes it very significant for us in what they have done and what many other startups like Agni-ban and like Agnikul are doing, like Pixel, like West Space, like Skyroot, like LXI, like Gigantra, and many more.
Now, could you also tell us how the situation has evolved for India's private sector in space from a time when in 2012 the nation had only one registered space startup, and how that journey has been enabled through policy changes by the government?
Well, as you know that the Prime Minister is also the Minister for Development of Space in India, and Honorable Prime Minister had taken it upon himself to take the space sector in India way beyond what it has been doing in the past in terms of bringing in the private sector. And that's the reason India announced in 2020 that the space will be opened up for the private sector, and open up it did from being very restrictive in what private sector can do. The policy announced about a year ago opened the door completely for the private sector to participate in this space. And that's the reason we see so much activity happening with more than 200 startups that have come up in the last 2 to 3 years. A lot of investment now coming in, both from India and from outside India. The new FDI policy opens up again the investment channel for investment from outside India to come in, removing many restrictions that we had on investment in India. So therefore, all this policy framework changing, the encouragement coming from the government, formation of InSpace to be a promoter of space for the private sector, everything is adding up. And obviously, it is the hard work of the companies like Agnikul that really is making it happen.
Okay. And with all this happening, where do you see it going now? There are already projections of Indian private space sector commanding a worth of over $100 billion in less than a decade and getting FDI of over $25 billion.
Well, I'll be very happy if $100 billion happens in 10 years. I think that's a bit of an aggressive prediction, wherever it comes from. What we have taken, what we think is an aggressive goal, but compared to $100 billion, it is not. A goal of $44 billion in 10 years.
Okay.
InSpace, in fact, has released a decadal plan, which is available on our website, which is about how we will get to $44 billion. What role will the private sector play in it? What role will government will play in it? What role ISRO will play in it? We are working very hard to make it happen. Right now, our space economy is only about $8 billion.
Okay.
Right now,
you could also say that you're being conservative.
I'm sorry?
You could also say that you're being conservative in your assessment. Okay, but in terms of setting new records and taking space exploration or use of space to newer heights, how far do you see India's private space sector contributing?
See, in India, space has been synonymous with ISRO, or ISRO has been synonymous with space. It's only in the last 2 years that private sector is coming in and coming in very aggressively in space. And what I'm very happy about is where we started. The private sector is not just taking tried and tested and just using it. They are creating new technologies, cutting edge technologies in all fields. And therefore, I would like to think that in the economic side or the commercial side of space, private sector in India will play a significant role, perhaps even bigger than ISRO taken together in 5 to 7 years from now. Of course, as far as R&D is concerned, scientific missions are concerned, I expect the bulk of the work happening from ISRO. But when it comes to economic sort of leveraging of space, it will be private sector that will play a major role.
Okay, but you see India's private sector also doing things like we've already seen private sector in the US doing in terms of relaunch capabilities and even taking people for space excursions?
Well, of course, I mean, that's something that everybody compares to and says when India will have its own SpaceX. And we just started. For us to think that we can talk about our own SpaceX will be a bit too early. And for us to even say that we will have a SpaceX may not be right because we may be doing something totally different.
Correct.
What I would like to say is that in India, just like in USA, where NASA and private sector work together very well, in India also ISRO and private sector will work together very well. A lot of technological innovation will happen from ISRO, will flow down to private sector will build on it and create newer applications for space. So I think it's a partnership that we're going to see in a very big way. And it is one of the sectors that's moving very rapidly. In 2 to 3 years, we're going to see some significant advances happening in the space sector.
Sounds great, and all the best to you and to all those like Agni-ban Cosmos involved in this endeavor to take India's exploration of space, the use of space to new heights. Thanks for joining us and talking about it this evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Now on to South Africa's crucial elections, where the ruling African National Congress Party seems to be losing its parliamentary majority that it has been holding for 3 decades. Now, with the trends indicating an uncertain verdict, the African nation's second largest party, Democratic Alliance, has said it will prevent a coalition between the ruling ANC and any of the other smaller political outfits at any cost.
The 2024 elections would be the most dramatic political shift as South Africa's ruling African National Congress ANC looked set on Thursday to lose the parliament majority it has held for 30 years. The early result released by the Election Commission shows that the ANC's share of the vote stood at only 43% from 22.2% of the polling station, while the Democratic Alliance stood at 24.8%. The final results of the elections will be declared on Sunday. More than 27 million registered voters exercised their right on 2029 in the election process in more than 23,000 voting stations.
Happening today, we need to move on from the past and focus on the future for us to have a good relationship with each other and to build more opportunities in our government.
I hope and I have the faith and the belief that the path that's going to take a further step, maybe they'll do something better than before. That's my hope, and that's my wish, and that's why I put my cross there to make a change.
The results has its impact on the market too. After early projections that ANC is losing majority, South African currency rand slipped more than 1% against the US dollar, while the wider equity index dropped more than 2%. The ANC has won national elections held every 5 years since the landmark 1994 elections. If the final results confirm the loss of its majority, the ANC will be forced to make a deal with one or more other parties to govern the country. Faiz Khan's report for DD India.
Still to come on DD India News are the second day of jury deliberations begin in the Trump hush money trial. Hong Kong finds 14 pro-democracy activists guilty of subversion in the largest use yet of a China-imposed national security law. And Prime Minister Modi is offering prayers in Kanyakumari after the end of campaigning for India's national polls.
polling campaign. After exhausting polling spanning 7 phases, the stage is set for the counting day, the grand finale of the largest electoral exercise ever. DD India is all decked up and ready, counting of votes for India's general elections. Accurate and fast results, in-depth analysis with experts and reporters everywhere. Only on DD India, 4th June, 6 a.m. onwards.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, former US President Donald Trump is in court for the second day of deliberations, that is jury deliberations, in his criminal hush money trial or the Stormy Daniels case on Thursday. Jurors in Trump's criminal hush money trial began deliberations on Wednesday but could not come to a conclusion. The jurors appear to be taking a closer look at the testimony of star witness Michael Cohen, who is the estranged former fixer for Donald Trump. The former US president has been charged with falsifying business documents to cover up a hush money payment to an adult film star ahead of the 2016 presidential elections.
It's a very sad day for America. The whole world is watching, and it's a very sad day for New York. I've gone through 2 of these trials already. It's with the same kind of a judge. It's all worked. It's all rigged. The whole thing, the whole system is rigged. Judge Engoron was overturned 5 times in my case, and he's going to be overturned again. And we were treated very, very badly. And the outside world is watching, and the outside world is just not going to bring their business to New York. And that's going to cost the city trillions and the state trillions and trillions of dollars.
Sounding almost as if he's already been pronounced guilty. But to tell us more about what's really happening, joining us for more on the stormy Trump trial is DD India's Sally Patterson. Good evening to you, Sally. Now, testing moments for all Donald Trump supporters, with the jury extending what I'm sure must be an agonizing wait for them. But how is Trump taking it himself, considering he has to be present physically in court while the jury deliberates his fate? Are you able to hear me, Sally?
Well, in the last few minutes, we've seen Donald Trump led back to his room, which is sort of a holding room where he's waiting out the deliberations of the jury. He's not allowed to leave the court while jurors debate whether or not they think he's guilty or innocent in this historic trial. So he's waiting inside the courtroom. Earlier, we saw him speak to reporters, as you've just heard, and he once again railed against this trial. He called it a kangaroo court. He said that it should never have been brought. He called the judge, Juan Merchan, corrupt, and he said that this was a disgrace. He's continued to call it a weaponization of the political system here in New York and across the United States. Donald Trump maintains that this is really an effort by his political opponents to try and keep him out of the White House. It is, of course, not so long now until Americans head to the polls for the next presidential election, and Donald Trump is the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party. He's very frustrated to be out inside the courtroom here in New York and not out on the campaign trail speaking to would-be voters. Now, earlier on Thursday, we heard the jury come back into the courtroom because they wanted clarification on a couple of different things. Firstly, they wanted to hear some of the judges' rules about what they should and shouldn't be considering. Again, those instructions took the judge more than an hour to get through on Wednesday, and now we've heard a repeat of some of those on Thursday. They wanted clarification on some of the terms that they're looking at, reasonable doubt, and what we're really looking at here, and also the reminder of some of the laws that are at play in this case. These jurors are random citizens from across New York City. They are not legal experts. They're simply using the evidence that's been presented to them over the past 5 weeks to make their decision. That has to be a unanimous verdict that they come back with. All 12 of those jurors have to decide as one whether Trump is guilty or not guilty in this case. Inside the deliberations room, they've got a laptop filled with the evidence that they've seen over the past few weeks. That includes documents, audio recordings, all sorts of information that they need to review. What they don't have in there is the transcript of the testimony that they've heard from more than 20 witnesses, and that's why they came into the courtroom earlier, and they were able to have it read back to them, both testimony from Michael Cohen, the key witness from the prosecution, who alleges that Trump paid him back $130,000 ahead of the 2016 presidential election after he says he paid adult film star Stormy Daniels $130,000 for her to keep quiet about an affair she said she had with Trump back in 2006. He has always denied that any sexual relationship took place between the pair. The other testimony that we heard from again on Thursday was from David Pecker. He was the former chief of the National Enquirer tabloid newspaper, and his testimony was all about an alleged meeting in 2015 at Trump Tower, where he says he discussed with Donald Trump this so-called catch and kill approach. That was basically finding stories that might not be favorable for Trump before he really got going on his campaign bid in the lead up to the 2016 election. And what Pecker said he would do is find those stories, pay for them, and then make sure they were never published so as not to put any damage on the president's chance of getting into the White House. I will say that Trump has pleaded not guilty to all 34 felony counts against him and continues to maintain his innocence.
Okay, and by now, Sally, all those keenly following the prelude to the US presidential elections must be aware that even if Donald Trump is convicted in this case, he cannot be barred from contesting. But could it still harm his prospects?
That's true. Donald Trump is still able to run for the White House, whatever happens in this criminal trial here in New York, and indeed the other 3 cases that he faces across the United States. Having a criminal conviction does not ban you from being a presidential nominee here in the US. However, what it could do is damage his chances of actually getting the votes that he needs to get back to the Oval Office. We're hearing conflicting reports at the moment about whether this trial could actually have an effect on his chances. A poll by ABC News, for example, found that more than 15% of likely Republican voters might reconsider whether they would actually vote for Trump if he's convicted in this trial. And a further almost 5% said that they would definitely not vote for him if that were to be the case. However, an NPR poll coming out on Thursday shows that actually many of those would-be voters say this won't have any real impact on their decision whether or not to vote. Many of Donald Trump's supporters maintain that he is innocent. We continue to see them showing up just behind me outside the courthouse, waving flags and banners saying that Donald Trump is innocent. He is the rightful president of the United States, and indeed they want to see him back in the White House come the end of the year. Thank you.
All right, let's see what happens, Sally. First of all, when and if and when the jury can come up with a unanimous verdict one way or the other. Thanks a lot for joining us for the time being. Now, the imposition of strict Chinese control over all aspects of life and liberty in Hong Kong became even more evident on Thursday. 14 Hong Kong pro-democracy activists were found guilty. Only 2 were acquitted in a landmark subversion trial, and critics say the process was no less than a kangaroo court, and it has dealt another blow to Hong Kong's standing as a global business hub.
Thursday saw the largest use yet of a China-imposed national security law in Hong Kong. The Chinese-controlled global financial hub's High Court found 14 pro-democracy activists guilty of subversion in a landmark case. Among those convicted were former lawmakers Liang Yok-hung and Helena Yong, journalist and campaigner Yuneth Ho, and ordinary Hong Kongers who joined the mass protests of 2019. However, 2 former district councillors, Li Yushang and Lawrence Lau, were acquitted by the 3 government-approved judges.
Happily, we are now seeing each other. Although, I won't say this case is finished because further proceedings is going on. I am unable to say too much. Do bear with me, and thank you very much for the concern over all the defendants of this case, please carry on your concern and even love of us.
The verdicts have come more than 3 years after police arrested 47 Democrats in dawn raids at homes across the city. They were charged with conspiracy to commit subversion under a national security law imposed by China. Sentencing will happen at a later date with prison terms ranging from 3 years to life for this offence. In 1997, when Britain gave Hong Kong back to China, Beijing promised to retain the city's western civil liberties for 50 years. But the 2020 law changed everything. Hong Kong authorities have muzzled free speech in the name of national security. Many activists have been arrested, silenced or forced into self-exile. Gautam Roy's report for DD India.
Let's talk about it a little bit more. Professor Swaran Singh of the School of International Studies of the Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi joins us. Good evening to you, Professor Singh. Now, what do you make of what has happened in Hong Kong, not just with the convicted pro-democracy activists, but with those who inhabit the altogether under China's control city?
Thank you, Gautam. I think what makes it particularly interesting for India is that even today, about 44,000 people of Indian origin, including 32,000 plus holding Indian passports, are in Hong Kong. So whatever happens in Hong Kong is of direct interest to India. Now to your question as to what is happening, which is reflected in the judgment that your report just showed, is a larger transition. We all understand that in 1997, United Kingdom finally transferred Hong Kong back to China under a system called One Country, Two Systems, which was coded in a document called Basic Law. Now that Basic Law had clearly guaranteed Hong Kong that they will maintain for another 50 years the capitalist system and way of life and a high degree of autonomy. Now, what makes it very interesting is that all powers to interpret Basic Law were given to the Chinese, who were now transferred Hong Kong, and Hong Kong was to ultimately merge with mainland China. Now, it is part of that exercise that whereas the Western world wants to ensure that the capitalist system and way of life and the basic freedoms are maintained till 50 years, which is till 2047, which again is relevant for India's 100 years of independence, Chinese believe that they will have to incrementally change it and completely make it into communist China by the end of 50 years. So that is where the disjunction of interpretations happens, and that has not been fundamentally very acceptable to the Hong Kong people themselves. If one has to listen to how Hong Kong people have responded to it, we are talking here of 47 people who were rounded off way back in January of 2021. They were told that they were making attempts for subversion, but fundamentally what was happening was a very popular movement at that time. In that 2019 district council elections, pro-democracy candidates had virtually swept much of the council boards at that time. And next in 2020, they were hoping that they will also now take over the LegCo, which is Legislative Council, and ensure that it follows the will of the people in Hong Kong rather than listening to the voice of Beijing in that sense.
Right.
Now see, the impact that can be very quickly measured is that in 2019 district council elections, there were 79% voting that happened compared to last year, again district council voting happened only 27%. Now that clearly reflects the acceptance levels of Hong Kong people in terms of changing that are taking place in that sense. And one could go on giving several examples, but this voting pattern, I think, is a very clear example of Hong Kongers not being very happy with the speed of changes that Beijing wants to bring about.
Okay. Now, rights activists world over have come down hard on these convictions, but against China as well. But why do you think Beijing is just not bothered?
I think Beijing obviously feels much more emboldened because of its economic power that it has, nearly 20 trillion economy, a very powerful one-party rule, one-man rule virtually. And it's not just Hong Kong. I mean, look at other issues where again China is being questioned by Western countries. whether it is the way it treats Taiwan or whether it is the way it treats Tibetans or it treats the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Overall, I think Western countries have constantly been talking about China's record of human rights, of democracy, and other transparency and accountability issues. But all those issues, including then on issue of Hong Kong, Chinese leadership doesn't feel really need to either explain or rectify its way of life, its behavior when it comes to ensuring basic freedoms in Hong Kong. So I think this court judgment and the process of, collectively these 47 people have spent 108 years in jail, just in detention, without even trial beginning. So that is an overall approach that Beijing leadership has, and this is again happening in case of Hong Kong as well.
Right. Now, you mentioned this earlier, but when the Brits returned Hong Kong to China in 1997, the condition was that the levels of civil liberties enjoyed by Hong Kongers will remain the same for 50 years. Now, clearly, this has not been met. Can anything be done about it?
I think it is basically important for all major democratic countries that want to make sure China's rise happens within the rules and regulations, following the norms that have been well established over the last 75 years since Second World War. And in that sense, there are certain expectations from China, and particularly if the people of Hong Kong themselves are clearly indicating discomfort with the way Chinese have been conducting state of affairs there. I think that itself should be a good barometer to understand the responsibility and onus then lies on several other countries, including Great Britain, which was controlling Hong Kong till 1997. One, of course, must also underline the fact that it is not that Britishers had maintained any democracy in Hong Kong before they gave it away to Chinese. It was having an advisory council at that time, which was not popularly elected again. So it is part of the process of giving it back to China that, Chris Patten at that time, the governor, had also started talking about democratization and reforms and transparency and people's representation and so on.
Okay.
But of course, the basic law is the way one should look at it now. And since basic law clearly puts it that Hong Kong has protection under international law, things like covenant of civil and political rights, Hong Kong should be in charge of its own trade, tourism, communication, and so on. And only defense and diplomacy will be with the Chinese. And even now, the Communist Party doesn't have any role in controlling Hong Kong. Of course, the National People's Congress, which is the legislature, also legislates for Hong Kong in that sense. So, because China is one party controlled nation, that is the effort in which Communist Party wants to make sure that the people who come to the Legislative Council in Hong Kong or become chief executives. For example, the last time there was contest for chief executive in Hong Kong, there was only one candidate, because there is now an election committee which vets what they call that the candidate should be patriot, which means they should be subservient to the Communist Party of China. So there was one candidate to contest for chief executive in that sense. So I think that kind of top-down approach of transformation which is being implemented in Hong Kong is something that is not clearly very well accepted by the Hong Kong people themselves. And that calls upon nations like United Kingdom and, of course, United States and others to keep an eye on it and see how they can make sure that
the kind of situation that is developing because of this sort of a conviction, this set of convictions, do you think that the aspirations of democracy that Hong Kong has very latently, because Hong Kong, which has had democratic aspirations for a long time, which at the moment are stifled? Thanks a lot for joining us, Professor Swaran Singh. Now, the Israeli military has lifted a ban on the sale of food to Gaza from Israel and the West Bank as its battlefield offensive chokes international aid in Gaza. Army authorities gave Gazan traders the green light to resume their purchases from Israeli and Palestinian suppliers of food, such as fresh fruit, vegetables and dairy goods this month. The shift marks the first time any goods produced inside Israel or the West Bank have been allowed into Gaza since the war erupted in October last year. Ukraine shared a video on Thursday which showed its sea drones hitting Russian motorboats off occupied Crimea. Ukraine's military intelligence agency said that a special unit called Group 13 had fired Magura V-5 maritime drones at the Russian motorboats. Russian forces used aviation and artillery against the drones. Chinese President Xi Jinping met United Arab Emirates President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan on Thursday in Beijing. The two leaders attended the opening ceremony of the 10th Ministerial Conference of the China-Arab States Cooperation Forum hosted by Beijing. Chinese President said that the Middle East is a place for development, but it has been threatened by war. China also offered about $68 million for Palestine and another $13 million humanitarian aid for reconstruction in Gaza. Back home, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that Insolvency and Bankruptcy Court, that's the IBC, is a landmark reform for resolving issues of financially stressed companies. The minister wrote that the World Bank in its 2019 report noted that India's 2016 insolvency regime reform increased creditor recovery rates from 26.5 to 71.6 cents on the dollar, making India by far the best performer in South Asia and surpassing even the average recovery rate of OECD high-income economies. The minister further added that a recent sample study by IIM Ahmedabad on the effectiveness of the IBC resolution process observed that the companies witnessed significant improvements. As can be seen, 3 years post-resolution, their average sales rose by 76%. Employee count recovered to nearly pre-bankruptcy levels. And average total assets rose by 50% and capex increased by 130%, indicating a build-up of tangible assets. The finance minister also said that, moreover, and as recently mentioned by the RBI governor, IBC has fundamentally transformed the credit culture in India, nudging debtors to settle their dues even before the initiation of insolvency proceedings. S&P Global Ratings has upgraded India's credit rating outlook from stable to positive, citing policy stability, economic reforms and high infrastructure investment as key factors driving sustained long-term growth prospects. Since the 26th of September 2014, the agency placed India's outlook on the economy as stable. After a gap of 10 years, the outlook has been upgraded to positive. In a statement, S&P Global Ratings said, and I quote, "The positive outlook reflects our view that continued policy stability, deepening economic reforms and high infrastructure investment will sustain long-term growth prospects that, along with cautious fiscal and monetary policy that diminishes the government's elevated debt and interest burden while bolstering economic resilience, could lead to a higher rating over the next 24 months. And India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has expressed happiness over global rating agency S&P's decision to upgrade India's sovereign rating from stable to positive after nearly 14 years.
Standard & Poor, the international rating agency, has upgraded India's sovereign rating from stable to positive after 14 years, largely due to the successful implementation of several measures over the last 10 years, where India has moved from a fragile 5 economy to the world's fastest growing large economy amongst the top 5 in the world. I believe Standard & Poor's re-rating India to positive from stable is a rightful comment and a rightful recognition on Prime Minister Modi's effective and astute management of the economy. Modinomics works. Modinomics is successful.
Now, the 6th meeting of India-Japan Joint Working Group on Counter-Terrorism was held in India's capital, New Delhi, on the 29th of May 2024. Both sides exchanged views on the terrorist threats in their respective regions, including state-sponsored cross-border terrorism in South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, Middle East, as well as terror activities in the AFPAC region. The two sides assessed counter-terrorism challenges, including the use of new and emerging technologies by terrorists, misuse of the internet for terrorist purposes, radicalization and terror financing. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday reached the famous Vivekanand Rock Memorial in Tamil Nadu's Kanyakumari, mainland India's southernmost tip. Prime Minister Modi offered prayers at the Bhagwati Amman temple and circumambulated the Sanctum Sanctorum. Priest performed a special aarti and he was given the temple prasad that included a shawl and a framed photograph of the presiding deity of the temple. After offering prayers at the Bhagwati Amman temple, the PM headed to the Vivekanand Rock Memorial. Kanyakumari is not only the meeting point of India's eastern and western coastlines, but also the confluence of the Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. Kanyakumari holds a special place in the life of Swami Vivekananda, as it was here that he had the profound vision of Bharat Mata. Ambassadors of Norway, Mexico, Bhutan and Nepal visited India's spiritual capital Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh. The ambassadors interacted with several senior leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party, with the youth and women's wings of the party as well. Additionally, the ambassadors and mission chiefs also received blessings at the Baba Kashi Vishwanath temple in Varanasi. The ambassadors and mission chiefs were informed about the electoral strategies as well during their interactions. Temperatures across Nepal, including the Kathmandu Valley, have soared sharply recently, making normal life difficult in the districts of the Tarai region. The Met Forecasting Division has reported that the maximum temperature in Kathmandu Valley reached approximately 33 degrees Celsius. The temperature reached 36.6 degrees Celsius in Dipayal, 41 degrees Celsius in Dhangadi, 42.5 degrees Celsius in Saripani of Kalaili, and 41.2 degrees Celsius in Nepalganj. And very briefly in sports, Olympiacos beat Fiorentina 1-0 after extra time in the Europa Conference League final on Wednesday, when a late winner from Ayoub El-Kabi gave the Greek club their first major European trophy. In a match that was high on intensity and physicality but low on quality in front of the goal, neither side could find the net in the regulation 90 minutes before El-Kabi netted the winner in the 116th minute. And that's it for the moment in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, formerly X, and Instagram as well, and you can also download DD India's mobile app, which is available both on iOS and on the Google Play Store. There you have the QR code as well to download it right away from the screen. And we'll be back with more news and updates that break here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.